Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. However you celebrate your holidays, have a good one. I'm joined this week. Speaking of having a good one, I'm joined this week in the Tim May Podcast for the first time by a guy I've been wanting to have on for almost a year now since he joined the On Three and Lettermen Row uh, team. Matt Parker, welcome to the Tim May Podcast. And not only that, you're getting to sit in the co-pilot seat, man. Number one, welcome aboard. Number two, how's it feel to sit in that co-pilot seat?
It's well, thanks for having me. And to answer the other question, I mean, I'm strapped in, baby. Let's go.
All right. Well, this isn't a stunt plane. This is usually a passenger plane. We try to avoid a lot of turbulence, but so did that plane on the way to Hawaii the other day, and it didn't quite make it. So
what's our cruising altitude at?
our cruising altitude is somewhere between 1,500 feet and 35,000 feet. So we sort of vary depending on how the subject matter goes. With you, that shouldn't be any problem because people who follow Lettermen Row and On Three know that you are our resident guru when it comes to recruiting. You took the place of a guy named Jeremy Birmingham, and I think he filled in admirably. And it's something, man, I did for a long time that I don't miss doing at all anymore. I like knowing the news about it, but calling people day and night and day, 24/7, that's got to get to you after a while, doesn't it? Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but you know what? That's why Folgers has the big coffee tins on sale right now at local grocery stores. So I just stockpile them. So we're good.
I got you. Yeah, good to the last drop, Folgers. I see where you're going there.
Not a sponsor,
That's probably the wrong coffee. I got it mixed up with another commercial from my past. But I want to let people know this is our. I don't know if I call it. Yeah, I'd call this our special holiday edition because I've got an interview with CJ Stroud that's coming up in a few minutes. He's the quarterback at Ohio State. We talk about a few things, but the main thing we talk about is the real meaning of Christmas, and he starts every interview that he does anytime he has interaction with the public or with us, the media. He praises the Lord, and talks about his faith to a certain extent. And we get into that, and it's kind of an interesting take, actually, in this conversation just about that, because that's why we celebrate Christmas, is because celebrating the birth, not necessarily the exact anniversary of the birth, but the birth of Jesus Christ. And so we get into that a little bit, but mainly we just talk about how his faith, he leans on it, it drives him, etc. And it's taken him to 2 Heisman Trophy finalist awards dinners. And now he's playing in the college football playoff with the Ohio State Buckeyes. And, we're just a week and a half away as we record this from that game. And I'm just wondering, Matt, from your vantage point, are you surprised, number one, to see Ohio State playing still for the college football playoff national championship? And number two, do you think this team is equipped to get there?
I wasn't surprised after watching the Pac-12 championship, USC Utah, seeing as how that all broke down. Ryan Day, I think, needs to send a lovely Christmas present out to Salt Lake City, to Kyle Whittingham and his program out there in Utah. But I wasn't shocked that they got in based off of that game. Now, your second question, I think, is a little bit more loaded. Are they equipped to do what is necessary to go through the beast that is Georgia to get to the national championship and then play the winner of Michigan TCU? And if they weren't equipped, they probably wouldn't be sitting there, right?
Yeah.
11-1 at the conclusion of 12 games. Obviously, that one blemish is a pretty ugly one to the team, one of the only teams on their schedule that really, they put all their focus and energy into. This past year they did probably a little bit of the same things with Notre Dame preparing for that game and Penn State a little bit, but every single year, I mean, Tim, you've been on the beat longer than I've been alive, and you know how seriously this program takes Michigan. So That's the one little blemish. I think they do have the tools. It's all about the mentality and it's all about the preparation, though.
Yeah, here's the one thing about Ohio State that is interesting. Since Urban Meyer showed up in 2012, which is now 11 seasons when you count them up, I think Ohio State's only lost 15 games. But boy, when they've lost, almost every time they've lost spectacularly. You know what I mean? And I think
it's ugly fashion.
the final score against Michigan kind of put a little bit of a rub on, because they did give up those 2 long runs near the end of that game, which shoved that score out there. And of course, they gave up 5 huge plays in that game. 5 of the Michigan 6 touchdowns in that game, which just, I think, tainted everything when it came to any kind of improvement on defense that they made this year. And as I pointed out several times, I will continue to point out, they're failing in that game and in the two games they've lost in recent past was they only scored they scored fewer than 30 points in those 3 games. And in the second half against Michigan, only scored 3 points when they had the lead at halftime. So there was a lot of blame to go around in that game, both for the defense and the offense. But I think this team is equipped to battle Georgia exactly where Georgia doesn't want to be battled, which is throwing the ball. And we'll see if they can get it done. I personally do believe they can get it done. After watching Georgia, going back and watching Georgia, not just its good games, but its tough games this year, like against Missouri, against Kent State. And even the LSU game, LSU made some big blunders in that game, or it might have been in it. And LSU had some shots, took some shots downfield and was successful a few times. So you and I both know Ohio State is equipped to throw the ball down the field, right?
Oh, absolutely. We've seen it time and time again, but they actually have to throw the ball down the field, not sideways.
Bingo, buddy. Now you're singing. That ought to be my Christmas carol. Quit throwing the ball sideways. Throw it down the field.
Beautiful.
Where there are fewer defenders. Anyway, you can get a bunch of your offenders. Anyway, I could write a song about that, but that was just off the cuff. What do you think? Am I ready for Nashville?
I think so. We'll jot it down real quick, the lyrics.
Yeah, you're supposed to say you're ready for the Nashville Sanitation Department. But well, anyway, hey, I've got you on. We're going to come back after my conversation with CJ Stroud, just about the quote meaning, end quote, of Christmas, the true meaning of Christmas, and a few other things. Matter of fact, I start off with him sort of like, you can see the Monarch machine, that Jugs machine in the background, and I tease him about, hey, look, they invented a machine to take your place, and you'll be pretty funny what he says about that. But that famous now Monarch machine that Marvin Harrison Jr. uses to practice catching passes, and along with every other receiver at Ohio State, but probably not as much as Marvin Harrison Jr. As I asked Marvin, this past week, why don't you have one at your home so you don't have to come into the WAC all the time? He started laughing. He goes, maybe someday. It sounded like his Christmas dream. You and I should get together and buy him one. But it's an interesting conversation with CJ Stroud. And then we're going to come back because, of course, this week on Wednesday is they call it the early signing day, Matt, but it's actually the signing day anymore. Ever since they invented this to give teams a head start on signing their upcoming recruiting class. And for Ohio State, that'll be 2023. Of course, you knew all the big time powers, the elite powers, were going to turn it into the signing day that mattered the most because they've been recruiting some of these guys for 3 and 4 years. And of course, that will be the case with Ohio State this year. And before we move to the conversation with CJ Stroud, give us one little hint on the guy that you think will make the biggest impact from this recruiting class. And by that, I don't mean necessarily come in and be a superstar next season, but who's a guy you've already got your eye on that you think is a can't miss in college football?
Man, that's a tough question because it's Ohio State recruiting. They're bringing in some of the best talent in the country. But I think right now, as it stands, we're sitting here recording this conversation before signing day, and anything can happen in the next X amount of hours. I think a name that is going to live in Ohio State lore when this is all said and done is I think Brandon Innes.
Brandon Ennis.
That's a guy I'm watching.
You're going out on a limb there, picking the guy, the highest rated guy in the class to be the most impactful. To our Jim Tressel word.
Well, I got another one, but we'll save that for
okay.
We'll save that for after TJ.
Yeah, that's like saying who you looking forward to seeing the most on Christmas? Santa Claus. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment after this conversation I had with CJ Stroud about the meaning of Christmas, about how he leans on his faith, how, that sometimes rubs some people the wrong way for some reason. Everybody has those things that they find that they put their faith in, that they find strength in. And I enjoyed this conversation with CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud, you're one of the more talented passers that's come along in college football. And I'm looking right in the background there. They've got a machine now that almost duplicates what you do. But what do you think about that? What do you think about the artificial throwing of the football as opposed to the real throwing of the football?
You don't got nothing on me.
I was going to say, the release point's low.
It's cool. It's cool. It's good for them to kind of get some catches and things like that. I'm about to put on my gloves and go catch with them right now. So I'll do that sometimes just to talk to them and see where my boys' minds at off the field and on the field. So
yeah,
I think it's a good thing.
You personally, I wanted to ask you one last thing. What is the biggest thing you got out of going to the Heisman ceremony for the second straight time? The only guy who's ever done that. Some people are saying Archie Griffin. Archie Griffin was in Cincinnati when he won one of his Heisman. You know what I mean? Yeah. He got to go to the presentation ceremony, but not the thing. But does it? I kind of asked you this a while ago. Does it in a way tell you even at this young age you've left your mark?
It has to do with it, I think. I definitely think that God willing have a lot more to do in my career and my career at Ohio State. So, we'll see what plays into it. I'm super blessed to be able to do that. I think that it's something that's rare and it doesn't happen a lot, so you have to be grateful, and I thank God for it. So, yeah, it's been amazing.
And last thing, you've used your platform in so many cool ways, but one of which is no one doubts the fact that you're a Christian, believe in God, etc. Why is that important? Do you have that? Is that important to you from the standpoint of when you get a chance to testify to witness that you do that? I mean, why is that important?
It's important to me just because that I think that when you're and I'm not a perfect Christian. I sin every day, unknowingly and knowingly. So yeah. I'm still walking with Christ, trying to find my way. But I think it's very important to me because I think people need to know that, and that even though your light is shining on TV and things like that, I think as a Christian man, you have a responsibility to lead other people to Christ and try to, because it's a love that isn't like the world's love. It's not like a football love. Like it's not the feeling I get when I score a touchdown. It's much greater and much more than that. So I want other people to feel that feeling and to have that relationship with Christ. And it's not to me, it's not a heaven and hell thing. It's not a you're wrong, you're right. I don't judge. It's not my job to judge anybody. Person believes in football, whatever the case may be. It's not my job. That's up to the Lord. But my job is to try to lead people on to Christ and do things that way, and try to make them feel the love of Christ. And that's something that I take near and dear to my heart.
That's what my father said. My father said, Tim, I don't care if you go to church, but you can't deny that some of the teachings, etc., of like Jesus, are good ways to lead your life, right?
100%.
I mean, whether you're a staunch Christian or you're a closet Christian.
Yeah, I think the thing about that I've learned kind of going to church, growing up in church, is that people look at church who don't go to church, that people in there are perfect, and the pastor's perfect, they have no issues, they have no problems, but we're all human. The only person that's been perfect is Jesus Christ, and that's something that I've had to learn, that I think church is more so. It's in a sense, some churches I've been to in my life, it's become a competition to see who's the most on fire. But
yeah.
The church I've been to, like Hope City in Columbus, is not like that. It's about to me, church is supposed to be like this, and that's how Hope City is. It's where like-minded Christians or Christians who aren't like mine create a melting pot to fellowship and to praise the Lord. And I definitely think that's what church is for. It's not a competition.
So is this a special time for you every year? I mean, celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. I mean, what does that mean to you?
It means everything. I definitely think that it's the sole reason that I'm standing here today. So yeah, it's a blessing, and that was my Christmas growing up. It wasn't. I never believed in Santa because my parents forced me to. Jesus is the real reason for the season. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that plays a part in my life now.
And last thing, what I think people don't understand sometimes about it when guys like you and others bring it up. Everybody needs something to lean on, right? I mean, a belief or something that there's something else out there besides themselves, especially when dark times happen, tough times happen, that you lean on your faith, right? I mean,
100%.
explain what that brings to you.
Brings peace, and that's something that's rare in this life, especially in this career that I chose to go on is peace. And even though when it feels like the walls are caving in and the world is crashing down and the world hates you, God brings you peace in a sense and lets you know that He's not done with you because I'm breathing right here in front of you. So I definitely think that has to play a part into it, and so many things to be thankful for. Like I said before in the other interview, like. I'm sitting here looking at you with my 2 eyes. I'm listening to you with my 2 ears. I'm smelling. I'm sniffing. I'm breathing. I can feel my arm. I can do everything that God wants me to do right now. So I'm really blessed, and I think that brings peace in my life.
Yeah, I appreciate CJ taking a little bit of time there during this Yuletide season to talk to me about his faith and about kind of what drives him. And Matt, he is an interesting fellow, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't fit the mold of what you would expect as a two-time Heisman finalist, Ohio State quarterback, and stuff like that. And I think we are constantly reminded of just what a good man CJ Stroud is, and then we think about what a great football player he is.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. The interesting thing is, even though he hasn't committed to this yet, there's a good chance. There's a very, very good chance he's going to declare for the draft as soon as this season is done, whatever form or fashion that takes. Although he threw some doubt about it up in the air. I think that's just to keep people on their toes. But that would leave Ohio State's current quarterback room with two guys in it, Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, both of whom I really like, by the way. I think the spring could be very interesting. I think the spring will be very interesting, barring injury, et cetera. But this kid they've signed are going to sign late to this recruiting class. What do you think about that pickup? And was it a desperation move, or does this young man have the goods?
If he's got the Ohio State offer and he's committed, he's got the goods. Ryan Day and quarterbacks coach Corey Dennis don't hit the trail looking just to get anybody, just to have a warm body in that coveted quarterback room anymore. Getting recruited to be a quarterback and a wide receiver at Ohio State, it's a matter of do you have the goods, not are you a warm body. But talking about 2023 4-star quarterback Lincoln Kienholz.
No, it's pronounced Kienholz, by the way.
Kienholz.
Yeah,
all right.
Kienholz. Go ahead.
So, talking about 4-star quarterback Lincoln Kienholz, out of Pierce, South Dakota, T.F. Riggs High School. This is a guy that has rewritten. They might as well rename the book after him.
Yeah,
for South Dakota high school football, which, sure, it might not be Ohio or Alabama or Georgia, Texas, Florida, California, all those powerhouse. But you know what? Good players can play anywhere, man. And Ohio State will find good players no matter where you play.
Yeah.
This is a guy that Ohio State's been on since about September or so when Corey Dennis initiated the contact with Lincoln. And, went out to South Dakota to watch Lincoln play during the Buckeyes bye week in that third week of October. And, I was able to have a conversation with Lincoln after that visit from Ohio State. And he said it was something truly special to be recruited by Ohio State. And at the time, he was committed to Washington. He committed to Washington back in June earlier this year. He stayed loyal to that commitment, even while Ohio State was recruiting him. And then I think everyone's eyes and ears perked up a little bit when former Ohio State commit, now Florida State commit, Brock Glenn left the class at the tail end of November. Ohio State brings in Lincoln for that official visit for the Michigan weekend. And shortly after that, I placed a prediction on Ohio State to flip Lincoln from Washington. But when you look at his tape and his highlight reels and his bad plays, because you got to look at the bad plays. They're not always going to be great plays, right?
Yeah.
You look at his tape, and he is an athletic quarterback, standing at a 6'2", buck 85, buck 90 by some places. He can make all the throws. I mean, he's got 9,100 career passing yards in 4 years of high school football. That's pretty amazing, Tim. I don't know if I could do that. I think you could maybe, but I know I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, are gonna be poo-pooing him a little bit based on, what kind of competition is there out there, in the greater South Dakota area and stuff. But like I always say, throwing over 9,000 yards against air is even difficult, when you think about it. And number two, this kid is just, boy, you watch the video of him, what an athlete, I mean, that's what stands out to me is the way he, like in basketball, the way he can dunk. I mean, and dunk aggressively. Just things like that. It shows he not only has some athletic ability, but he has some get up and want to, you know what I mean? And I like that about a guy, an aggressive stance, in my opinion. You can tell, even Ryan Day and Urban Meyer and all these other guys will tell you, you can tell a lot about a guy, about a football prospect by the way he goes about playing other sports. Is he standing in the corner and shooting threes, or is he driving to the hoop? And this guy will drive to the hoop on anybody. And you can already picture where he's going to put on 15 pounds within the first year and a half of being at Ohio State, sitting there supposedly at 185, 187, whatever his weight is. I mean, CJ Stroud weighed about 190 when he showed 188, 190 when he showed up at Ohio State, and he's now in that 220 range. And has looked good putting it on, under the auspices of Mick Marotti and those guys. So I really like this guy. Hey, let me ask you this: besides the receivers, the three receivers they've got, who are what? Brandon Ennis, who you've already talked about, who you plucked as your can't miss prospect in this class. He's rated number 1, I think, in most of the composites in this Ohio State recruiting class. You got Noah Rogers, that wide receiver out of where? North Carolina. And
Roseville, North Carolina.
Yeah, and then Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate, where's he originally from? He's at IMG Academy, right? But where's he originally from? Do you remember?
He is originally from Chicago, Illinois.
Yes. So you feel good about that wide receiver class, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can't forget that's a 4-man wide receiver class. Yeah. They also have Bryson Rogers out of Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Yes.
And Bryson Rogers is an Ohio native. He's got family from Warren, Ohio. So he is a very proud, as he calls himself, Ohio boy.
Zephyr Hills, baby. They do a lot of skydiving around Zephyr Hills. But the guy, what I was going to get to is the guy that's intrigued me only because of where he's from. Is I would like to have been from this town. I would like to, even though I take pride in saying I was born in Alabama, but then raised in Lufkin, Texas, Lufkin. This guy, Calvin Simpson Hunt, is from Waxahachie, Texas. And that just has always had a great sound to it, man. Even though I was growing up in Texas, Waxahachie, it's like being from Cut and Shoot, Texas. But Waxahachie, where they filmed that movie in and around Waxahachie named Tender Mercies with Robert Duvall about 30 years ago and stuff. It's kind of like halfway or a third of the way between Dallas and Waco, and just kind of it's not really in the middle of nowhere, but you feel like you're from the wide open country, wide open Texas, because that's where the plains of Texas really start and stuff. But Calvin Simpson Hunt, and the reason I brought that up too, he's a cornerback, right, or defensive back. Are they getting the help they need in that secondary from a depth standpoint, considering the guys they've lost even to the transfer portal and guys they've lost along the way? Are they getting that in this class, in your opinion?
Yeah. You mentioned Calvin Simpson Hunt, who I was really high on. Even when he was committed to Texas Tech, he originally committed to Texas Tech, not too far away in Lubbock, Texas. There's a big Texas show today, apparently. But he's the physical type of cornerback that in this Jim Knowles defense that you want. This is a guy that, in that 4-2-5, he can play on the island, which is exactly what Jim Knowles wants for his cornerbacks, right? Yeah. I saw a stat, I think it was Saturday or late Sunday night or sometime in, the last 48, 30, whatever hours. in 13 games that Calvin Simpson Hunt has played in, he's only had to defend one pass.
Wow.
So imagine, being a high-rated cornerback. That's the ultimate compliment, don't you think?
Yes.
No one's throwing the ball your way,
Yes.
So, someone wants to, all the stat junkies out there want to say, well, why are his stats so low? Why is it this? Why is it that? Well, teams are avoiding him. They're game planning against this guy. They don't want to put the ball anywhere near him. That's because he's a Division I FBS cornerback.
Yeah.
He's got all the physical tools. He can run in space. You put him in that press man, he's just got physical. I wouldn't want to line up against this guy. But then you look at who potentially his counterpart will be at Ohio State, and Jermaine Matthews Jr. out of Cincinnati, Winton Woods High School, same high school Mayan Williams went to. A lot of folks, I sure know that. It's the same boat. Matthews was just named first team All-State Ohio in Division II. He was named the Division II Defensive Player of the Year. He had 3 pick sixes this year. Through pretty sure it was about 12 games. They lost in the second or third round of the playoffs, somewhere in there. My memory escapes me right now, but those two are definitely, when you look at the cornerback position for this 23 haul, I think you got to give cornerbacks coach Tim Walton some props here for landing 2 big time corners. I think On3 has these guys graded as the number 35 and 37 overall prospect across the country, and respectively they're the number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks in the country. So this is, looking at the cornerback position, this is the exact depth that you want. And then they also bring in well, we're waiting to see, because K&E has some decisions to make on signing day. He's between Ohio State and Auburn right now, and I think the Buckeyes will keep him, but we'll find out Wednesday. But that's a really, really strong cornerback class for Tim Walton. And then you move it over to the safeties with Perry Eliano and what he's brought in, and you have Malik Hartford, who is another first team All-State Ohio guy in Division I, which is, allegedly the cream de la crop, even though it's really just based on population size and school size, but we don't have to get into that. Out there in Cincinnati playing for Lakota West. And then you also bring in Jaden Bonsu, very talented and big safety from New Jersey. And then you have Cedric Hawkins down in Titusville, Florida, where he plays at Cocoa High School. So again, you got 6 defensive backs that are coming into this class. For a depth, you maybe would have liked to have one more safety or one more corner. At one point, Ohio State did have 4 cornerbacks in this class, and then Dejon Johnson decommitted. Ultimately, I think he's up at Florida now, the local program. But from a depth perspective, bringing in 6 defensive backs is a good sign, and we'll see how Ohio State utilizes the transfer portal for their benefit. You and I know you and I know that Ohio State they use it sparingly. They use it if it fits them, if it's the right fit for them. But didn't they say somewhere there's like 1,000 players in there?
Yeah,
surely
there's 20 from Texas A&M, I think. Go ahead.
Surely there has to be one scarlet and gray needle in that haystack.
In that
right?
haystack, yeah. In that portal,
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
But from a depth perspective, this defensive back class is going to be important for Ohio State moving forward.
Yeah, I went on I think it was a radio station out of Cleveland last week, and when they introduced me, I started making music like they thought they had a bad connection. Tim, where are you? I go, I'm in the transfer portal. You know what I mean? It's really interesting how many check in and not as many check out, but that's a story for another day. Let me ask you this.
Football purgatory.
Yeah, it is purgatory, because you're even the superstar. Until you get that school, until you do sign with somebody else, you're in limbo, baby. So it is what it is in this modern age, isn't that right, Matt?
That's right.
A guy that's intrigued me only because he was one of the early commitments to this class, and I just like this guy's personality, although barely, been around him or spoken with him. I just like the way he handles himself. I like Luke Montgomery, that offensive lineman from Findlay. And I think he's the highest rated offensive lineman in this class. They've got 4. Do I have that right? 4 coming in. But
Yep.
Is he a guy to keep your eye on early? Because, they have a chance to have some openings on that offensive line going into next year and stuff. And we haven't seen a whole lot of the depth from this offensive line group play this year, with the exception of Josh Fryer and Enoch Vimahi. So, are they expecting some immediate help out of this group, or, and who are the guys that are capable of giving it to them? I would think Luke Montgomery, from a size standpoint, although you're still not big enough coming out of high school. You're either too big for the wrong reasons or not big enough for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? And but Luke Montgomery seems to kind of fit that bill. I mean, but do you agree with me that he could at least maybe challenge for some depth in that offensive line coming out of this group?
Yeah, I certainly think he could. Definitely, I see there's a chance that, he could crack that second unit for Ohio State. Maybe not be that 6th man, but being the 7th man as a true freshman is a great spot to be in.
Yeah.
Especially at the Ohio State University, right?
Yes.
But looking at all of, Luke Montgomery's measurables, he's one of the highest graded offensive linemen in this cycle, in this 2023 cycle. And, he's going to be a Buckeye in, let's see, a day from now. When this comes out, he'll sign his.
Yeah, you don't have to date us too much, but basically he's expected to do what he said he's been doing for a year and a half. That's signed with Ohio State. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But this is a guy, I think he's listed at 6'5". I wouldn't be shocked if he's actually 6'6".
Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's somewhere in there. He's been on Ohio State's campus just about every single home game that they had in this 2022 season. The thing about him is that the shape of offensive linemen has changed.
Yes.
Offensive linemen aren't these, no disrespect to the greats of the past, but these offensive linemen anymore aren't just these, these big fat guys anymore. They are athletes. They are athletes, and they can move around. And Luke Montgomery played AAU basketball with LeBron James's son, Bronny. He can move around. I went up to Findlay in August, watched a scrimmage that Findlay was that they had ran, and I'm watching this 6'6", 270, 280-pound guy sprint out and block on screens downfield, and I'm just like, oh my God, this guy's a monster. He adds the depth, as does all of this 4-man offensive line class for Ohio State. He has the depth, he has the size, he has the instincts to, and really, it mentally, he has it as well.
Gotcha.
Mentally, he has it as well. He has a really great relationship with Justin Fry, Ohio State's offensive line coach, as all of the offensive line commits do. But, anytime that, he's on campus and, he's inside Ohio Stadium and on the field and stuff, or during those pregame warmups, you just watch that bond that him and Justin Fry have, and it's something special. And I'm really looking forward to watching Luke step into this new role of his once he arrives and he gets in the weight room with, Mick Marotti, and then he gets into spring ball and stuff like that. And he's definitely a guy that would not shock me that when, comes September 2nd, September 3rd, that's when the 2023 season kickoff is, September 2nd, 3rd, when they go to Bloomington, Indiana. I wouldn't be shocked if something happened and true freshman Luke Montgomery's name gets called and he has to go out there. Now, we're not hoping that has to happen, but if it does, I wouldn't be shocked. But another name in this offensive line class I wanted to touch upon really quickly that I think has a lot of potential, and it's going to be a development thing, but that's Miles Walker out of Greenwich, Connecticut. He's got to be 6'7". Okay, he's got to be about 6'7".
Yeah,
just a hair or two under 300 pounds. When you say there's your left tackle in a couple of years, it's that guy.
Wow.
He gets developed by an offensive line coach with the reputation that Justin Fry has as, developing guys. And I can't wait to see what they shape Miles Walker into.
What is on three? What does on three have him? Do they have him as a 4-star or a 3-star? Miles Walker.
On three has Miles Walker as a 3-star.
Yeah.
But again, kind of in the same conversation as Lincoln Keenholz. What's the competition out there in New England? What's the competition out there? But when you got D1 size, you can't hide that. So I am very intrigued to see how his development goes once he arrives to Ohio State.
Yeah, he's 6', he weighs maybe just short of 300 pounds, but he's not a sloppy looking near 300. I mean, he's he definitely looks the part and could get bigger and stronger. I mean, that's what's interesting. Of course, there's a guy in this class that my heart kind of goes out to, and I've got my eye on, is Will Smith Jr., from Dublin Kaufman, just because his dad is one of the great players I ever covered at Ohio State and one of the great people, may he rest in peace, great people I covered at Ohio State. Will Smith, man, just a hard-nosed, get after it, take no prisoners kind of like defensive end. And his son gets after it too. We'll see where he plays along the defensive front. But the guy that I am intrigued to see also from the get-go is on that defensive line, in that defensive line group, is Jason Moore out of DeMatha, high school in right outside Washington, D.C., Hyattsville, I think is where it is, right? But or he may be from Hyattsville. But anyway, DeMatha Catholic. I've watched video of him, and he's one of those get after it kind of dudes, right? And he's hulking at like 6'6", about 255, 260. And he's one of the higher rated players in this class, right? Do you see him having a chance for at least, sort of like Caden Curry, getting in on some kind of mischief in his freshman year?
I wouldn't be shocked by that. Excuse me. During Ohio State Maryland week, I went down to the greater DMV area on a little recruiting trip, as you remember.
Yes.
And one of the guys I saw was Jason Moore, and Tim, he couldn't fit through the doorway. He had to come in sideways through the doorway. His shoulders were so broad. And you think when Larry Johnson sees that and hears that, he doesn't crack a smile?
Yes.
But yeah, Jason Moore, that's the thing, right? So I went to DeMatha. We had an awesome conversation. And one of the things that, we talked about was positional fit. Because here's a guy, he's 6'6", 260, 265, somewhere in that area. And I'm like, where are they going to play you at?
Yeah.
What are they thinking? He goes, we're not really sure. It's kind of a wild card thing, because he can play on that outside position as a defensive end in this system, but he's got the strength to play on the interior of that Ohio State defensive line. Yeah. So could you imagine having and as much as Ohio State likes to rotate their defensive line and create different pairings, can you imagine that interior where it's Michael Hall Jr. on one and then Jason Moore on the other? Yeah. After he gets developed and some things like that, and some time. Now, he won't be an early enrollee. DeMatha and the conference that they play in, they don't allow for the kids to enroll early. But I think it worked out for Chase Young, who went to DeMatha High School and ended up being a Buckeye legend. Yeah. So not comparing Jason to Chase by any means, but I'm just saying the timeline there and the narrative kind of matches up a little bit in terms of early enrolling and not. But yeah, he's a guy that it could wreak havoc for this Ohio State defense. But as it relates to this front seven, this is a guy that I wanted to get to. And if you weren't going to ask him about him, I was going to bring him up anyway. But that's a 4-star linebacker, Arvell Reese, out of Cleveland Glenville High School. Yeah. We all know that Ted Ginn Sr., legendary coach and the father of Buckeye great Ted Ginn Jr. I think Arvell Reese is a guy that he spends time with Jim Knowles. And I was talking to Charles Power, the On3's director of scouting. So, looks at a lot of tape. And he said to me that if things go well for Arvell Reese and he spends time with Jim Knowles, he wouldn't be shocked if he's a high round draft pick, talking first or second round. I watched him play. I watched Cleveland Glenville play Olentangy Liberty in the second week of the high school season. And when you talk about just a physical linebacker, someone that's in the box, and the moment that ball is snapped and, you know, his offensive tackle or his offensive guard or whatever, you know, key that they read on makes that first step, he already knows where he's going. He already knows what the play is, and he's going to make the play. That's the thing. And that's why this Cleveland Glenville defense, you know, pitched, I think, about 7 shutouts throughout the regular season, 15-0, undefeated state champions for the first time in program history. That's a guy that I'm real excited about in this defense to watch.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, the pipeline is starting to drip again from Cleveland Glenville. That's the way I look at it, man. It was flowing there for a while to Ohio State and really other places around the Midwest. But yeah, he's one of those guys that just jumps out at you. It reminds me of some of these defensive end kind of type dudes that played at Georgia way back, you know, many years ago. Just kind of like that, he has that edge to him from the standpoint of just a physical dude, but then that quickness to just, you know, blow up things, you know what I mean? And come off the edge. We'll find out whether he plays linebacker or ends up on the edge eventually, whether if he gets a little bit bigger and things like that. But yeah, those are the guys that excite you because they can just out of nowhere, you know, blow something up. And it's pretty cool. Hey, you know, let's move along here real quickly because I know you got to go. You've got to get on the phone here in the last few minutes to make sure no one's defecting, et cetera, or Ohio State may be getting somebody a surprise. But how would you describe Ohio State getting this posse of cats, you know what I mean, to the finish line? Has it been a little bit of hectic for Ohio State? And of all these guys we talked about, you know, do you expect all of them to be a Buckeye after Wednesday?
That's a loaded question.
I know it is.
It's a loaded question.
This is you telling the future because this comes out on a Tuesday. We're recording it on a Monday, and signing day's on the Wednesday, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have my my orb or whatever, my crystal ball, as some like to call it in recruiting, but I feel pretty confident that Ohio State is going to cross this finish line. Now, real quick, it's important to note that, you know, this is still the early signing period. You know, we said at the beginning of the show that this is the new signing period, but there is a signing period that is February 1st, and you know, anything can happen there, you know, as well. So, but the bulk of Ohio State's class, and they got 20 commits right now. The bulk of this Ohio State class, and I'm pretty sure that's about 19 of 20 are signing to Ohio State on December 21st. Now the signing period is the 21st through the 23rd, so you could have some dramatics and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure that Ryan Day and company, and that includes Mark Pantoni, who is the overseer of all things Ohio State football. He's got quite the job title, don't you think?
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
come December 21st, there's going to be about 20 new Buckeyes, maybe more. We're waiting to see some decisions from some guys. That includes 5-star defensive lineman Mateo Ungalele from St. John Bosco, the younger brother of DJ, former Clemson quarterback, now in the portal. We're waiting on a decision from him. If Ohio State can pull off the almighty flip of 5-star safety Caleb Downs from Alabama, we'll find out about that here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But crossing the finish line, I think Ohio State, you know, they get it done. They are the closer they need to be. All the great closers. Ohio State's going to be one of those for this 23 class.
Here's a loaded question for you because, you know, do you think by getting Lincoln Keenholz and losing Brock Glenn, do you think that's almost a push? Or, you know, I think Brock Glenn, you know, his video speaks for itself also and stuff. Do you what were they trying to add Lincoln Keenholz even as they had Brock Glenn, or did they have a feeling that they were losing Brock Glenn? Were they trying to get 2 quarterbacks in this class?
You know, talking to some sources inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, it really felt like that's what they were trying to do, was get a 2 quarterback class.
They needed it. Yeah.
You alluded to this a little while back about how interesting this spring is going to be between, because we are all assuming that CJ Stroud is inevitably going to depart for the NFL draft, and that leaves Kyle McCord and Devin Brown and an opening as QB1 at Ohio State, which is that's a battle that not only are folks in Columbus, Ohio going to be watching, but people around the country are going to be, oh, who's going to be starting quarterback? And I think Ohio State was wanting to have two quarterbacks in this class because of the result of this battle could anymore in this transfer portal era could mean losing the loser of that battle and
Yes.
losing depth, losing a scholarship player. So you have two scholarship quarterbacks right behind them in the event that this battle doesn't go, the way that one of Devin Brown or Kyle McCord wants it to go. They go in the portal, but you know what? Ohio State is still okay because they had two more scholarship quarterbacks behind the winner of that battle. But ultimately, that didn't work out for Ohio State's way, and now they're just going to have to roll the dice, and they can use the portal if they want to. But again, like we said, they use it when they want to. They don't feel a need to use it, but it's or you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're trying to say. The interesting thing is not this time a year ago, because I think Quinn Ewers had already left and Jack Miller was looking for a soft landing somewhere. He ends up at Florida. But the bottom line is you looked at that quarterback room going into 2021 and, I kept reminding people and others did, hey, this is a snapshot, not a movie. You know what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
This quarterback room in this age, this era of transfer portal and name, image, and likeness was not going to last, not going to stand. And like you said, the middle of January, they could be sitting there with three scholarship quarterbacks, including Lincoln Keno's a freshman, and two other guys, Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, battling for that starting job in the spring, you would think. I would think, Lincoln, if he shows up early, might think he might even be able to jump into that battle because it would just be three, right? But it is amazing how quickly things change in the college football world because of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. I want to hit you with one other thing, Matt, because, you heard Ryan Day refer to this the other day when name, image, and likeness first came up. It kind of came up in conversation in recruiting. Then it kind of became maybe the second thing that came up in a conversation in recruiting. And now it's the number one thing that seems to be on most of these prospects' minds when these guys go into their meetings, in-home meetings or whatever conversations with these recruits. What is just, and this is kind of a general question, but what has been the impact on Ohio State's recruiting in the name, image, and likeness realm of the basically maybe some of the, in some respects, still against NCAA rules, but who knows what NCAA rules are anymore? Maybe even some of the illicit promises that are being made to prospects around the country by schools and their collectives. How wild has it gotten just in this recruiting cycle of trying to not only get someone's interest but keep it?
It's difficult. I mean, it adds on to the already tough decision for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, because that's what they're kids. I think we often forget that these are high school kids. Could you imagine being 16, 17, 18 years old, having 40 Division I offers to play wherever, and all the schools are telling you nice things, and they say that you can get nice things and, do all this? Well, now you add on top of name, image, likeness opportunities, and you're at the end of the day, we've kind of seen this division of, do you want to get this upfront kind of promise, or do you want the opportunity to have potentials to earn that while we also develop you into a first round draft pick where you can sign a contract, and if you do well there, you're taken care of for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Your family is taken care of. Generations behind you are taken care of for the rest of their life.
Almost before you step onto the campus.
So
I don't think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're seeing NIL really, really changed the things that has made college football schedule or special. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I think it is a good thing for the players that are currently on a team, because these guys they do more than a normal student does. I think we can all agree on that to some kind of level.
Yeah.
Because you went to college, I went to college, but at least I didn't play football in college. I covered college football at Ohio University, and even there, I know how much of their time is spent in meetings, in the weight room, in the practice field.
But you know what? Past that, this is the thing that separates football, see, in my mind. Because a lot of these sports are dedicated. The athletes are dedicated. My wife was a high jumper and did a little sprint work at Ohio State way back in the 70s and stuff. And matter of fact, she was a really, really good high jumper. And but the bottom line is a lot of these but to me, what separates football is the jeopardy, is the physical jeopardy you face, just in practice, much less in games and stuff. And, a couple other sports like maybe hockey, they come close to that, but it's nothing like the physical jeopardy you put yourself in. And this is a stepping stone between high school and where you want to get to, which is the National Football League, even though very few guys end up there for a very long period of time. And so that's why I think from a football standpoint, I've never had any problem with this name, image, and likeness thing, but it's just the outrageous part of it about collectives and these other, do-gooders getting involved even before you ever to campus about promises being made, et cetera, about what you're worth before you even show your wares. That's where it has gotten out of hand. Should be against some kind of rules, but when it becomes state laws, which is what it is now, you can't make a rule to keep a guy from enjoying something that would be basically breaking the law because he's entitled to that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a very interesting time we're in right now, and it's a totally other conversation on the Tim May podcast when we've had a few of those in the past. But that's what my problem with it is almost young men getting promised what is life-changing money, and sometimes life career insuring money being promised to them before they even play it down for good old State U or good old, whatever. And that's my problem with it. Isn't that your problem with it?
Yeah. And then you also, in the same vein, you got to look at a guy who, was recruited by Ohio State and is, now on the roster. They've been through a spring ball and a training camp in August, and, they played some snaps on special teams and, ran down the field on kickoff and stuff like that. And why is someone who hasn't even put on the scarlet and gray getting an opportunity when they haven't even done a workout at Ohio State? Whereas this is someone, and I'm not thinking of anyone specifically, I'm just speaking in generalizations here.
Yeah.
Someone, who has put in the work, and maybe, we haven't seen it on the field on Saturdays in the horseshoe, but someone that's been there and has done the right things and stuff like that, and who has earned it more so than a potential Buckeye.
True.
That to me is the thing where I scratch my head a little bit and I'm a little confused.
Yeah, me too, man. Hey, by the way, you're going to San Antonio for that All-American game, right? And that'll be a good time for you and stuff when all these guys are there. It'll be interesting to see if their representatives are along with them. You know what I mean? You're allowed now to have a representative, aka another word for an agent, whatever. But that's what's really changed is the posses have grown larger with these, especially the big time athletes, and those are the guys that'll be there. Hey, real quick before we finish up here, who's somebody that's in this class who's going to be playing in an All-American game? You're really you haven't gotten to see play live or something or work out live that you're really curious about that's going to be ended up at Ohio State in this 2023 class.
Right. So I got just about every single future Buckeye that we've talked about on this show is on the roster for this fall, for this All-American game that's in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm gonna go with Calvin Simpson Hunt.
There you go.
He's gonna be there representing Ohio State as part of the All-American Bowl. And
Waxahachie. Go ahead.
And Waxahachie, Texas. And I'm really excited to, I mean, I watch his tape and I just sit there and I'm like, man, he's gonna make plays for Ohio State. He's gonna make plays for Ohio State, and he's gonna make plays in that All-American Bowl. And I'm excited to see what he is gonna do. Can't wait to talk to him, ask him questions, and just really pick his brain on a lot of stuff. And I can't remember if they're on opposite teams, but Brandon Innes and Carnell Tate will also be there. So maybe we'll have some Buckeye on Buckeye stuff happening at the All-American Bowl.
Yeah. Well, as the old saying goes, if you're into recruiting, and most Ohio State fans should be into recruiting, even with its weird underbelly now, which is the NIL situation, because it is the lifeblood of any program. You recruit good players, you're going to have a pretty good team. Now you got to make them into an elite team, but it is what makes college football. As Woody Hayes said, you win with people, not with X's and O's. You win with people. Those are what makes the difference. And so this it's going to be a pretty Merry Christmas for Ohio State. They had a couple get away. They might get a couple before signing day, as you and I are recording this, like you pointed out. But otherwise, it still stacks up as being a pretty decent Christmas present 2 days before, or 4 days before Christmas, right, for Ohio State, this recruiting class?
Yeah, I think they made the nice list once again.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You always got to be nice because they know whether you're naughty or nice. I'm not sure they care as much anymore whether you're naughty, though. That's a podcast for another day. Hey, Matt Parker, appreciate you joining the Tim A podcast for the first time, man. Let's do it again, all right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us once again. And wow, I think this is nearing the 200th, may have just gone over the 200 mark in podcasts since joining Lettermen Row after I retired. I retired from the Columbus Dispatch, got lured back into this thing, and here we are 4 years later. Ohio State getting ready to play Georgia in the semifinals of the college football playoff. I'm very much looking forward to the coming week of covering the build up to this game. And also, before we go, I'd like to wish is not the right word, extend a rest in peace to Mike Leach, one of the great characters college football has ever seen. As Ryan Day said when I asked him about him the other day, he kind of did it his way, and he did carve his own niche, man. Almost anybody, if you knew anything about college football, you knew about Mike Leach and his tremendous personality. Oh, and also he helped revolutionize the game. As Kirby Smart, the coach at Georgia, pointed out, you can't hardly turn on a video of a high school team in this country and not see elements of that air raid offense somewhere in it, because everybody figured out that's the easiest way to move the ball down the field is to get it involved with the people where there are fewer defenders, spread the field and let it fly. And Mike Leach basically kind of like learning off the cuff of Hal Mummy, definitely did that. And so as much as he's remembered for his pirate memorabilia and his fascination with pirates, this guy should not be discounted for his impact on football. I think you agree with me on that, don't you, Matt?
Absolutely. When Mike Leach was in Pullman, Washington, head coach of Washington State, kind of a de facto Washington State fan, because he was a character in press conferences, and then you got to watch how that Cougars offense ran. So that Pac-12 after dark, I would stay up and specifically watch Washington State. So he will certainly be missed, but he's in a far better place than we are. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Although my grandsons, they're going to enjoy where they are this year, I think. I mean, I think they've been nice, at least according to their grandpa, Tim May. But we'll see how Christmas goes. We'll check in later. But Matt Parker, thanks for joining the Tim May podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again. And until next week, we'll see you then.